college wrestling is back on Iowa PBS.
Hello, everyone.
Join me, Tim Johnson, along with Wartburg coaching legend Jim Miller for 5 weeks of exciting college duels on your statewide network and online at iowapbs.org. Our next matchup features the University of Nebraska Kearney taking on Grandview University in Des Moines. Let's go. Thursday night at 7 on Iowa PBS.
Murph and Andy, proudly presented by Ramsey Subaru and BMW of Des Moines. Live and on demand across Iowa everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Murph and Andy. Murph and Andy, connected by Cellular Advantage.
Let's do it. It is Murph and Andy live on Iowa Everywhere alongside Andy Fales and producer Andrew Downs. I'm Keith Murphy, and off the top here, the Cyclone rumor mill was cranked up all morning. Andy, if you know a Cyclone fan, and I know you do, you probably heard from him or her, hey, I'm hearing Milan Momchilovich might be injured and out. What are you hearing? Well, the rumor mill in this case was cranked up with accuracy. Milan Momcilovic is out indefinitely. Iowa Everywhere Cyclone Fanatics Chris Williams reporting this, confirming at the top of the hour. He's out probably 4 to 6 weeks. It is his non-dominant, it's his non-shooting hand. But, of course, this gets a lot of attention for a guy who's started every game since his freshman season last year.
Yeah, and on a night where they got a gigantic basketball game. So everybody is torqued up about this game tonight, and you want everything in place. If you remember last year's game at Hilton, he had some really big shots in that game. He's really important to this team. I mean, you want all your weapons set for tonight's game and certainly for the rest of the season. I mean, with this crazy ranking, that's amazing. I mean, you want everybody healthy. I mean, that said, this is a really deep team.
That's a big deal that it's such a deep team, and it will present an opportunity to somebody else, Demarion Watson, likely to get more minutes. Certainly Nate Heisey, who's been put into those key defensive situations, will play more. And Momcilovic will be back. He will be back for March, maybe before that. But he's going to be back at the most important part of the season. So there's always the opportunity, especially with, as you noted, a team so deep, sometimes you're wondering how you can work all these guys into the rotation. This is a chance to get better with the depth, to get guys more reps, more minutes, and then you bring him back at the most important time of the year. But that's not trying to spin this to a positive. It's a negative. This guy set the freshman record for three-pointers last year and is averaging, 10 or 11 points this year.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, I guess you could argue he's their best three-point shooter this year by the numbers he is. He's big. He's tough to guard out there. And he's a guy clearly that TJ likes a lot. You can just tell that by the amount of minutes that he plays, despite how deep this team is. And he's played a lot since he got here. So, I mean, he's got a lot of experience under his belt, which is, these days in college basketball is nothing to shake a stick at. So, you don't want this at all. But, I mean, there are times when something like this happens, and that's when you really give somebody else an opportunity. And that's why teams keep trying to add players, right? I mean, you may feel like you've already got a really good starting 5 or a good 6, 7, but you just don't know when something like this is going to happen. And, if you kept on recruiting, kept on signing guys, and you were, almost too deep early on, well, you lose a guy like this and suddenly you're glad you were that deep.
This happened in practice Tuesday, so it is fresh as we're here on a Wednesday, and the game tonight at 6 p.m. We'll have much more on the game coming up. Non-shooting hand, that seems important. You still...
But he still dribbles with that hand, and he catches passes with that hand. I mean, a hand injury to a basketball player is tough. I mean, it
is. But you would pick the non-dominant hand if you're having to pick. Have you warmed up to the nickname Mommy? I still haven't. That's just a little too odd for me.
Yeah, it is a little odd. I mean, it fits. It's easy to say, but yeah, it is. I don't know. There's guys with stranger nicknames out there, but I don't know. It seems like it's going to stick.
All right, let's get into the Guest House Tavern and Oyster in West Des Moines, setting the table for today's sports and more. Thanks, AD. Mommy out. AD apparently is going full in on the nickname. Yeah, there you go.
You save a lot of letters by shortening Momcilovic to Mommy.
Yeah, if you put Momcilovic out, where is that, AD? Is that over on the Spoon at Guest House Tavern?
Yeah, at least over by the Spoon, yeah.
So, Mommy out. Frozen campers. That's Hilton Coliseum based. And cell phone ban. That is all coming up. Guest House Tavern. Northwoods inspired. Midwestern hospitality.
Something stood out to me yesterday. So Winnie Moranville was the old Date Book Diner. She's the best restaurant critic that I've been around, that I've witnessed in all my time here.
I always enjoyed her.
She's really even-handed. I think she understands the power of a restaurant critic. So if she goes someplace and just has a really bad experience, she doesn't do a review on that, just doesn't do it. So, because one bad review can absolutely kill a business. And, those businesses are family businesses. And while that's, nice for people to know, I think she always respected that and just said, okay, I'm going to put out ones from it was 3 stars, 3, 4, 5 stars is what she would put out. But, she goes all over the place. She's very well spoken. She clearly knows her food really, really well. And so yesterday I was reading, she has this relatively new blog, and it's like a subscription service. It was $3 a month, and I wanted to read more, and I like reading restaurant reviews. I just always have. So I was like, what the hell? I'll subscribe to it. And so I pop it open, and I see this headline that says the 5 best restaurants in Des Moines from 2024. So she's out to eat, numerous times each week. And she makes a list of the 5 best that she ate at this past year, which is a lot of restaurants, but, clearly not every restaurant in Des Moines. And so I look at it and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be like Oak Park and Prime and Providence and, maybe some of the other old Harbinger or something is going to be on there that really rings a bell. Well, no, it's not that. There's some couple of places I haven't been before. There's Hugo's Wood Fired Kitchen. There's Alba, which is an old favorite, and Luca, which is an old favorite. But then at the top of the list is the best one. The number one is Guest House Tavern and Oyster. Wow. And I was like, it's a nice place. We're really happy to have them. But I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
This is a really big deal. Yeah, this is Winnie Moranville. This is the best restaurant critic here. And she was there multiple times and gives a really interesting review. You can check that out. Just, Google search her stuff. But wow, what a great honor for Guest House Tavern and Oyster. And it makes us look good too, right?
Right.
Rubbing elbows with the bigwigs.
This is probably due to my rave about the poutine.
Yeah, she didn't bring that up. She said the beef stroganoff is the best thing, just amazing. She did talk about the oysters and the wild rice casserole.
Yeah, no oysters for me.
Sounded amazing.
Boy, Jenny liked those. High or low now since the last show?
Presented by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax.
Charterretirement.com is where you will find them. And Tim Hawkins is his name. He's the one that runs that. Good dude. This is going to be another shout out here as I'm going high here to our good friend who we haven't heard from in a while, Sean Keeler out at the Denver Post. He is named the Colorado Sports Writer of the Year for 2024.
Last time we heard from Sean, it was when Deion Sanders was saying he would no longer answer questions from Sean.
Yeah, Sean is a real sports columnist. A lot of papers dump their real sports columnists.
Which is the exact opposite of what they should have done, because the time more than ever that you're looking for a reason to seek out a newspaper, whether the actual old school newspaper or in digital demand, Most people are looking for personalities and strong opinions that they trust, or opinions that they sometimes don't like, but they can't avoid reading because they find them interesting. And that's what you need more than ever on all throughout media. Everybody's looking for strong personalities.
Somebody that will speak truth to power.
Yeah.
Somebody that will not be all worried about, oh gosh, the coach isn't going to like me anymore if I do this.
It's
I mean,
Deion Sanders too.
That's your job. Yeah, but he has been speaking truth to Deion Sanders at a time and place where I can't believe, I can't imagine anybody else out there doing that. I mean, I imagine that Sean was repeatedly on an island out there, and his criticisms, and they were the ones that I saw. I didn't read all of his columns, but the ones I saw, and we talked about them on the show several times, they seemed fair, seemed very fair. And apparently his colleagues appreciated that too.
I'm sure they did. Award. I saw Sean at the Sweet 16 when Colorado was playing Iowa. Was that 8 or 9 months ago? And just had a great conversation with him, and it was fun. And most of the conversation was about Deion Sanders and his family and all of that. And Sean was entertaining as always. And speaking of Deion Sanders, he's talked to Jerry Jones about the Cowboys opening. And I don't think I could handle this if it happens. I don't think it will happen, but I can't imagine what ESPN would become if you combine their two biggest talking points. The Dallas Cowboys, who ESPN still starts most shows with most days, even when the Cowboys are irrelevant because no one moves the needle like the Cowboys, and they know that. And then Deion Sanders in college football. They used every possible opportunity to talk about Deion Sanders to the point where the BYU fans were pissed off during the bowl game because BYU was routing Colorado and all the talk was about Deion Sanders and Colorado. So if he were to coach the Cowboys, and you have Jerry Jones, Cowboys,
it was another
Deion
perpetual
Sanders,
talking point. Yeah, I mean, Jerry Jones is just another spotlight hog.
I just can't even imagine that. Do you think there is a chance, but do you expect that this is real and that Jerry Jones, who does love the spotlight and knows that it would only increase with Deion, you think he might hire him? Really do it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that he will. I think that, yes. I mean, I think he thinks of Deion as a Cowboy still, even though that was the third team that he joined, and basically great. Just joined when they didn't really need him, but he still helped them to another Super Bowl, at least one more. I think one more. He was still a great player with the Cowboys, but I think Jerry Jones considers him one of his. And yeah, it's an opportunity to make a giant splash. Doesn't seem like Jerry Jones is real good at avoiding those. And I don't know. I mean, who else is out there?
Not anybody that wants to take that job, probably. Of course, the Cowboys can hire coaches, but your most qualified coaches, they don't want to walk into that where they have to deal with Jerry Jones kind of being an assistant coach and the general manager, and it's a messy situation. And I should cut myself off because now I'm doing what ESPN would do, which is talk about the Cowboys and Deion Sanders, even though they're not even together yet. I'll go high as well and be pretty quick about it, but Carson King dropped by yesterday, and he brought the whole family sweatshirts from the Carson King Foundation, and it was just one of those reminders.
I thought you were going to say he stopped by with the whole family, like he brought his family into your house. Was like, hey, we came for the afternoon.
Yeah, you guys got anything to eat? Some snacks? Anything? We're glad to see you. It was a reminder to me of one of the all-time cool stories. Yeah. This guy, what's it been, 5 years ago? And he's just joking around about the beer money. And the money just keeps coming in. And
just a
coming
genuinely sweet guy that's never really changed. And yeah, I always whenever I see him out, I always have a nice conversation. And just a really, just a sweet dude, just a really nice guy.
He is, and he got caught in that firestorm and came out the other side, and the public was
everybody
about as behind a person as anybody could possibly have. And at one point, I remember when it got up to around $3 million, he technically could keep that money because it was just all in his Venmo. Millions of dollars right there in his Venmo. And of course, he turned it all over to the Children's Hospital. And I remember just that incredible sight of a guy true to his favorite team, Cyclones, getting a standing ovation at sold-out Kinnick Stadium, wearing Cyclone gear, which doesn't even seem possible.
Yeah,
but
maybe
it
the
happened.
first and last time that's happened.
Yeah, that's how much people enjoyed that. But the high is knowing that he still has this foundation. He's still raising money. He's still turning it over to children's hospitals in both Ames and Iowa City. And I'm just proud of him. I think it's just really cool. I'm glad to have that story.
I agree. Yeah, he's a really good dude. And through that whole thing, he really just kind of discovered his calling.
Yeah.
What he believed to be his calling, something he was certainly good at.
Yeah, I called him the accidental fundraiser.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what it's turned out to be. Interact on YouTube. Email Murph_Andy at iowaeverywhere.com. On X, it's Murph_Andy. It's all powered by the cellular advantage, now with 35 central Iowa locations. Proud partner with the U.S. Cellular since 1993. I heard from Doug Eklund today. He's like, you hearing anything on this Momcilovic rumor? So, yeah, everybody's paying attention to that this morning. Right now, let's get the buzz on a Wednesday.
The Buzz. Brought to you by Logier Heating and Cooling.
Logier Heating and Cooling, proudly serving the Des Moines metro community for more than 115 years, and a little bit of a respite from the freezing cold temperatures today, but we're right back into it pretty soon here. Ed was showing us that staircase.
It's like bouncing like a basketball this week. Yeah,
Man,
it's going to come up, and we're going to be in the 30s and 40s, and then back down single digits, and then back to the 30s and up 30s next week.
Well, the buzz is number 9, Kansas at number 2. Highest ranking in Iowa State program history. Tonight, Hilton Coliseum, 6 p.m. game. It's sold out, of course. This is just the 6th top 10 matchup in Hilton Coliseum's history. That's 50 years where both teams are in the top 10. So it's a big game tonight, obviously.
It is. And, Kansas is always Kansas, it seems like. I don't remember a time where they've had like off years for them, but they were still really good. There are certain teams and places where I worry about Iowa State not being up for the game. Seems like in the past when they would go to West Virginia, you would worry about that. Texas Tech has been one of those places. I don't ever worry about them being up for the game with Kansas, whether it's here or at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. It's Kansas, and they take it seriously. They play really hard. They could play, really well. They usually do play really well here and even there. I don't worry about that. And maybe the injury today, that's another point of inspiration, but still a Kansas team that is loaded. Most of us probably haven't followed them real closely yet this year, but Bill Self's still the coach. It's going to be a team that's stacked.
Always. And I think one of the reasons you don't have to worry about Iowa State with the intensity or a letdown at West Virginia or Texas Tech, if you've seen how demanding TJ Otzelberger's practices are and the kind of players that he seeks out to play his style of basketball, I think game nights are like a relief. It's like, okay, now it's the fun part because those practices are tough. Like Keyshawn Gilbert was talking about to Slam Magazine, Iowa State basketball isn't for everyone because it's very demanding, but it's also why you can see that Otzelberger has set up this way in this new era of college basketball where I think they're just going to be in the NCAA tournament every year. He knows the kinds of players he needs. He knows where to get them. He knows Iowa State can afford them in this NIL era, and they've got it rolling. Now, tonight, you do have this Momcilovic injury, and we don't know how that's going to play out. There is an adjustment that has to be made there. It will be an opportunity for someone, Heisey, Watson. Somebody's going to play a lot more, but you still have to adjust to that, and you're adjusting to it against a really talented basketball team. It also seems to me like Iowa State always beats Bill Self at Hilton Coliseum. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of surprised. Self's record at Hilton is actually 14-6. Does that surprise you?
Well, I mean, there've been some pretty bad Iowa State basketball teams during the time where there were no bad Kansas teams, right? I mean, Kansas teams were better than others, certainly, but did they ever have a team that was bad in all the time that you can remember here, whether it was Roy Williams or Bill Self? I mean,
not
bad
Steve
team?
Prohm's final couple of years.
No, I mean, Steve Prohm had some bad teams. Greg McDermott had bad teams. Wayne Morgan had at least a bad team. Stacey had a few bad teams. I mean, really. So there would be a bunch of wins in there, and I'm sure they beat a really good Iowa State team at some point at Hilton Coliseum. We've just forgotten about that. But, I thought you were going to say the big difference was that at Hilton Coliseum, in a situation like this, or a year like this, there is no chance that crowd would ever let those players believe that this was anything but a huge game.
True.
Right? We've seen them camping outside. We know how early they'll run into the student section and take those seats. The regular fans may get there early. They'll be extra loud. I will never forget the first time that I covered an Iowa State-Kansas game. And that was my first season here was the Marcus Fizer, Jamal Tinsley year. So that was a really good team. And they had an amazing start. They lost to Drake, but they put together a long winning streak, and they were playing really, really well. But everybody kind of knew, though, that Kansas is still coming. And that team had Nick Collison and Kirk Heinrich, yeah, they're really good guards. So had those and Jeff Boschee and a number of other very good players. And I remember sitting on the baseline shooting that game, and I'd shot all the other games leading up to that point, but it was so much louder, and the fans were just getting personal in what they were yelling at the Kansas players and at the Kansas bench. They had studied for the game. And sometimes I would turn around and be like, who is yelling that? And I'd turn around and it was like a grown man, got like in his 40s. And you just like, it was just a whole nother level. And then Iowa State won that game and won it pretty convincingly. And that was the loudest I have ever heard that arena.
It's next level. It will be tonight, too, and I think Iowa State will find a way to get this done and take care of business, even as the Cyclones adjust to the loss of Momcilovic for a month or more. You mentioned the campers. They showed up Sunday night. WHO 13's Roger Riley was there, and this line formed, even though the school's not in session yet, but they started lining up the tents Sunday night. Another one came in there Monday, and then a couple more Tuesday. But Roger stopped by there last night as some of the tents were packing up. They were told that they can't have the heaters or generators out there, and the temperature, I think it got down to like 2 or 3 degrees last
it was
night.
Really cold. Yeah,
it was brutal.
Really
it was brutal.
Yeah, well, and look, you can't have a heater in the tent. Okay, talk to anybody that's into camping, unless you're going to have like a giant Alaska outfitter tent that has giant poles and you can stand up inside and have a wood stove with a chimney. You can't have a heater in the tent. The tents are not made for this. They burn. They melt. They may be fireproof, but they melt. Other stuff inside there catches fire. And it was just, a few years ago where one of those tents did catch on fire.
It's probably been 10. It does feel like it was just a few years ago. But Roger talked to the campers that were packing up last night, and here's why they said they decided to put the tent in the car.
Yeah, we thought we could get a heater, but when we arrived here, some of the other generators were getting taken down, so we didn't want to attempt to go buy one from Walmart or anything, or even just rent one and it eventually get taken.
Yeah, the no heaters and the no generators is no fun really, because what I've heard from other tenters who are like veterans is like that they've been doing this years using heaters or generators, and it's now just recently that they're taking them down.
All right, so Andy, I need some help here because you're a camper. You guys spent many a night in a tent in various conditions. So is the only way to have any heat generated in a tent with a flame? I mean, is there not any kind of, you can't run a generator and have some kind of safe heat that doesn't involve a flame? I get that a flame is dangerous and you probably can't have that.
No, I mean, there are space heaters that just heat up coils, like the ones you use in your house.
That's a danger to the point of not being able to allow that, you think?
Could you do it safely? I'm sure. You could put some sort of, flooring underneath it. You could keep everything away from it. These are college boys who, are not renowned for their attention to safety details. So I think if it's the university trying to err on the side of caution, that shouldn't surprise anybody. You could do it, yeah. But I mean, if you're camping, I mean, you either have a tent that is made to accommodate a heater, or you insulate the heck out of the floor. You have a really heavy bag. You've got a really good sleeping pad. You got, sometimes you put like a water bottle, like a warm water bottle in your sleeping bag with you. You wear a hat, gloves, socks. I mean, you really, but I mean, these guys don't want to do that. They want to sit in there and drink beer and probably get in and out of the tent a whole bunch of times. So I don't know. I mean, you've watched Alone. You see what that's like, but I don't know. I mean, they wanted to use a generator to power a heater. There would be, you could find some kind of a safe heater. I'm sure that you could use in that situation, because that's car camping. You're not going to have to carry that in a backpack or something. But I don't know that the trust is there from the university.
Let's get a quickie poll from WCI Pools and Spas in Ames and Urbandale. WCI could bring a spa by one of the tents, I suppose. But AD, what do we have here? And
I think we did that
Andy
at one point. We had a
resident
spa
expert.
We had a spa up there one year for RVTV, right?
Yes, we did.
It was really cold.
Which is the bigger worry when camping at Hilton Coliseum in below freezing temperatures? Is it the tent fire or the hypothermia?
Ed mentioned both of these on the newscast last night. All right, Andy, you are our guy on this topic. Which is the bigger worry?
Well, I mean, are we trying to pose this like, these kids are in the right for just trying to prevent hypothermia?
No, I'm just, a lot of people feel that way, but I can completely see that the university, especially with a tent fire in not that distant past, they have to take a hardline stance on this of just, you can't have a generator, you can't have a heating device. Same time, I'm kind of surprised but pleased that they still let them camp out, because it is like 0 out, and there is danger in that too.
Yeah, right. Like you're letting them be exposed to one danger, but not all the dangers, or both of them, or whatever.
I would want no part of this.
I mean, hypothermia, it would be the probably, I don't know. I mean, both of them are big time risks. I mean, they absolutely are. Because they're college boys that are doing this. These guys,
their brains aren't fully developed.
They're doing shots of Fireball, and so they feel warmer than they actually are. And then the guy gets hammered and passes out in his underwear on top of his sleeping bag, and then he wakes up and he has to have his toes amputated.
Yeah, the fact that they're doing this at all calls their judgment into question, I think.
Yes.
I would definitely not do this. Andy, I could see you maybe doing this because of your camping background.
Well, I mean, I've done freeze out campouts before, and they're really fun. But you take them really seriously. I didn't do them. I didn't do them in 0 degrees. I mean, that's an extreme. And it's at Hilton Coliseum, which is, noted by Arctic explorers as being colder than the North Pole.
It's the coldest parking lot in the world. That's a
cold.
fact. That's a fact. That's been proven.
I love the spirit, though, that they just wanted to do it
too.
anyway. Yeah,
I think it's cool, and I hope it continues because it's just fun to see. Like Sunday night when Roger stopped and got them setting up the tents because school wasn't back in session. I was surprised by it, and I was like, "Oh, that's fun." It starts to get you in the mindset of this big game coming Wednesday. So I love that. Slam Magazine has Keyshawn Gilbert, Curtis Jones and Keyshawn Gilbert on the cover. On the radar is what Slam says. And Slam, they have pivoted in a really, if you don't know a lot about Slam, they've pivoted in a fun direction. Now what they do basically is they, in addition to having the magazine, which you can get a hard copy or a digital copy, but they end up selling these magazine covers on t-shirts and hoodies, and they sell a lot of them. And like Colin, my son, in his bedroom here, he has several Slam magazine covers, including one that AD at one point I said, "Hey, Colin, how married to this Kobe Bryant Slam cover are you? Because that would make a really nice gift for AD this Christmas." And that was a hard no.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be up right behind me, and
yeah,
I don't have it.
But that's cool. I mean, the spotlight is getting bigger.
I haven't seen that yet. That is cool. This is a magazine.
Yep, Slam. It's been around
still
a long
make
time,
those?
Yeah,
they do. They still make them, and they, in order to survive, and this is where you adapt or perish. In order to survive, they thought, okay, now we're going to take these covers. Like if you go to Slam Magazine right now, the first page you will see will be the t-shirts and hoodies with this cover on it. You think a Cyclone fan might be interested in having a t-shirt that has this on? Like, AD, you would like to put this up at AKC Marketing right now.
Absolutely.
But don't have the rights.
No.
A couple of interesting things too. So Caitlin Clark has been on 3 Slam magazines. And if you go there, all 3 of those are sold out. You can't buy the magazine. And not surprisingly, none of the gear has her on it. They don't have the rights to sell her image. So you can't buy a Slam Magazine Caitlin Clark t-shirt or hoodie. All right, let's get to some other hot topics, whether AD wants to or not. The Hawkeyes lose by 10 at USC. This was fun for me. I went home and caught most of the second half by the time I got home shortly after 11. So late tip. It was 9:45 before they tipped out in Los Angeles.
I'm glad you had fun watching that second half, Murph.
I saw your post, which was good night.
It was such a late game. I mean, a 9:30 tip off. You know, that's hours after my kids are in bed. It's my wife has been sick, so she was in bed. I'm just there alone. It's like 9:15, and we're still half an hour away from tip off. And then it was about 5 minutes into the second half, and things weren't going any better. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here. And then, of course, what did I do? I sat in my bed and watched my phone until the game ended. I may as well have just been on the couch watching the TV.
Well, Iowa came from 19 down to make it interesting, but the Hawkeyes, as happened so many times, especially on the road, just done in by bad defense and bad rebounding. I mean, they scored 89 points and lost by 10.
Well, I mean, USC is looking like a pretty good team. They're feeling pretty good about these Midwestern teams. They just beat up on Illinois the other day.
Right. At Illinois.
Yeah, at Illinois, right. So you had to think, and I think we all did think Iowa, regardless of how much better they've been playing at home lately, that we're still going to have trouble with this. But, I mean, just at least there aren't any other teams in the Big Ten that will have to worry about a late tip-off. Oh, except the other half of the Big Ten.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
These coast-to-coast games.
Iowa stays out there and plays UCLA next.
May as well.
Yeah, make it one trip. Iowa still seeking its first quad one win of the season, so still need a quad one win. Fran McCaffrey is under pressure, but it is nothing like Mike Woodson at Indiana. So last night, Indiana's down 30 at home to Illinois around halftime, and the students just leave. I mean, the entire student section exits, and I don't know if it's organized protest or just like, I don't need to watch this crap any longer. Students leave, and then this chant breaks out. Well, he's going to be fired eventually. It's just a question of when. And Andy, Indiana's one of those teams that spent a small fortune on NIL. They have talent, but this really goes to the coach if you can't get your players motivated. We saw it against Iowa to some extent the other night. But if you're down 30 at home at halftime, that's effort, that's caring, that's coaching. I mean, they've got to make a change. It's just a question of when they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, when you could tell when a coach has just kind of lost the room, right?
Yes.
Where he's just, it doesn't seem like he's in control. Indiana basketball is hard to figure out, isn't it? I mean, since Bob Knight, they've had some good teams, yeah, but it's been like way spottier than you would ever expect it to be. They've always had a shitload of money. They've always had, this just a ton of cachet, whether it's from the Bob Knight years or Hoosiers or just kind of Indiana basketball's place in the world of the sport. But they just don't ever seem to be able to figure it out for a long time. They've had some really good coaches in there.
They have, and they've done some winning. I mean, I'm tempted to compare it to Nebraska football, but they actually have had more success.
They haven't been that bad
since then than Nebraska football, but it does feel like that, and that you had these glory years that especially the aging fan base can't let go of, national championships and Big Ten championships, and you're so far from that right now.
That is a good comparison there. That kind of like the curse of the old guy, the guy that, I mean, Tom Osborne wasn't pushed out, but, he still has a legion of fans pining for him and his ways. And even though I think if you were to go back and watch Nebraska football or even Indiana basketball from those years, you'd just be like, oh my God, that would not fly today. I mean, they're just not just the methods, but the schemes. But I mean, there's such lore about Bob Knight in that town, in that building, that program, that he's still, kind of lording over whoever takes over, whoever the coach du jour is there. And then, Purdue has been successful. I know that you've had fits and starts from Butler and Notre Dame, and, that state's only so big, but, or even Indiana State. But I don't understand. I mean, it's going to be somebody's treasure chest. It just seems like finding the person with a permanent key to it has been impossible to do.
Yeah, the old saying, you don't want to be the guy who replaces the legend. But at Nebraska and Indiana, it's kind of been, you don't want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaces the guy who replaces the guy. It just keeps going, and they can't seem to get it. The Iowa State women handled Texas Tech last night by 13. Audie Crooks with another big game, 28. Addie Brown also had 20 or 21 points. They dominated on offense. And the Cyclones played good defense, and they had a good inside game, and they attacked. But the thing that's most notable here is, I mean, for most people, for the team, the thing that's most notable is they won a conference game. But for the rest of us, it's like the 3-point streak came to an end. 30 years of making threes, never having a game without a three. 30 years and 945 games. That's incredible. And again, that was one of those things that hit me hard last night when I stopped and thought, hey, if they get another 30-year streak going, I won't be here for the end of it.
I thought that was some pretty funny sound from Audie Crooks, and who was the other one that was up there?
Addie Brown.
Addie Brown. They were pretty funny about that. Those were some good post-game comments where they were genuinely felt bad that they had broken that streak. I mean, they pointed out that they won anyway, and Audie Crooks made a really good point that, hey, how amazing is it in this day and age that, you can win a game that comfortably with just 2s and 1s, right?
Right, right.
Without hitting any 3s. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you just don't see that very often anymore. But still, like after she said that, she went back to feeling bad for snapping the streak. But I don't think they were really aware of it.
No, they said they weren't. And Addie Brown said they started, when the chant started to break out, they started to get the idea that there's something more than just we haven't hit a 3 yet in this game.
Yeah.
And then they were made aware of it. They're like, well,
they say they don't
sorry.
pay attention to
Not
that
sorry.
stuff, and sometimes they're lying, and clearly sometimes they're not.
The Vikings are out after winning 14 regular season games. The Rams dominated Monday night. The game, the only neutral site playoff game in NFL history, with the exception of the Super Bowls, of course. But even with the benefit of the ridiculous non-fumble call right here, this is a little bit like the Supreme Court justice on pornography. Tough to define, but I know it when I see it. I mean, this might technically follow some kind of rule on passing, but when you watch this in real time, you're like, oh, come on.
What's his arm doing?
That's a fumble. I mean, he's just getting rid of it. It's either grounding or it's a fumble. It's one or the other. Anyway, Sam Darnold sacked 9 times.
Nine times.
9 times he
9
was sacked.
times.
And he drove Paul Allen crazy. I should have included that audio.
Yeah,
Paul
Allen.
Stay
God.
tuned. Stay tuned.
Oh, you
Oh,
got
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Little
all right.
tease
80
ahead.
squared
Very
there.
good.
Okay, good.
Good.
I
Wow.
think we've all got Vikings fans in our lives, and they always have the same tone. When they're celebrating, they're kind of, all right, Vikings, way to go, man. We're doing great this year. And they just are already expecting like something to go terribly wrong and snap back and hit them in the face. And then when things do go wrong, I can't even bring myself to give them any shit about it because I feel terrible for them. I'm right. I mean, don't you feel that way? I mean, and it's been this way for as long as I have been aware of football, which is a long time. I mean, a really long time. And I think, did everybody's Instagram feeds or Instagram, Facebook, everything get filled with videos of, Metropolitan Stadium being thawed out for the NFC Championship game back in the 70s, where like the NFL looks like the Civil War. It's like that old. Yeah, I mean, how many times did you see the Hail Mary a bunch of times this week?
The thing I saw the most was that video. It's like a meme of a guy just being kicked repeatedly in the nuts.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the Cowboys drive. What was that? 1975. I'm too little to remember. That's just so unlikely. It's just crazy against one of the great defenses in NFL history. Completes, one really long pass, then, one more play, and then the Hail Mary where Paul Krause, the Hall of Famer, is right there, and Drew Pearson catches it anyway. It's just crazy. It's just terrible. So I felt so bad for them because while I'm not a Vikings fan, I mean, I would, these are friends of mine. I would like to see them be able to have something really nice.
Yeah, Chris Williams broke out the T-shirt, "This team is the reason I drink."
Yeah, I mean, and he grew up in Southern Iowa too, so this was a choice of his too.
Yeah, he could have picked the Chiefs.
Yeah, he easily could have picked it.
He picked the Vikings. Sam Darnold, keep this brief, but I don't think you can sign him.
No.
You're
gun shy from here on. You're gun shy with him.
Mm-hmm. He did have a good season. He does deserve credit for keeping them afloat. 14 wins is no joke. He was good. At times he was very good. But in the two biggest games of the year, he looked lost and at times panicked against the Lions and against the Rams. Those are your two biggest games, and he was bad in both. And that's enough to discourage you from signing him. Somebody will sign him, but it can't be. And we were a few weeks ago, we were advocating for, you got to keep this guy. But now you can't.
Well, and that happens, right? I mean, you swing back and forth from saying everybody was wrong about Sam Darnold, and now you're like, well, maybe they were right.
Confluence is the official beer of Murph and Andy. Confluence, where good things come together. Of course, you can order a Confluence at Iowa Wild games, and the Iowa Wild have the Rockford Ice Hogs coming up January 17th. What would that be? Is that Friday night? Or
Friday.
Thursday?
Yeah, it's Friday.
That's Friday night. The Wild and Ice Hogs, $2 beer night, $3 Fireball drink special. Oh boy. And then we're going to give away 2 tickets to January 25th's Big Country Night. Andy, identify this country artist.
That is Dylan Scott, Travis Luke.
No, it's
Country star.
Nope, it's just Dylan Scott. Let's get some more. Please. Not more Dylan Scott.
But wait, there's more. From Either Or Eatery and Patio.
All right, Either Or Eatery and Patio, 6222 Grand Avenue, right near the intersection of Grand and, 63rd Street or 1st Street, depending on which direction you're coming from. You'll find it over there.
Lot.
Look for the nice crowded parking lot and the cool Christmas decorations that are still up outside. In her condition of the state address last night, Governor Reynolds confirmed she would indeed pursue a statewide cell phone ban in classrooms. Researchers are encouraging schools to consider all-out bans right now from schools, not just classrooms, but all-out bans.
You've done a lot of stories on this, and this seems to me like something that is needed for everybody's benefit.
And, in this case, I think it's, even when you have a Republican legislature that wants to, speak to local control, I think this is helpful when you have, the governmental body just say, okay, we're going to take the pressure off the individual school districts here. We believe this is the right thing here in this case, and say it's just banned, right? They have to follow the law here, and then it's not the school districts getting called out. They have to enforce it. And, in the stories that I've done, that's kind of the tough part. I mean, these school districts have to come up with a plan to enforce this ban because it's really hard to do.
Right.
Every kid's got a cell phone.
Right.
They all want to use them all the time.
And some of the parents, it seems from your reporting, the moms especially have a tough time giving up the connection, some of the moms, to keep in touch at any time.
Well, there are a million excuses of why the kids have to have the cell phones. Which
they'll be fine. The kids will be fine. Actually, they'll be better off. The teachers will be better off. And maybe everybody will get smarter, which we need.
I was reading this very interesting report yesterday, though, that was talking about these researchers encouraging the schools to just ban it at the door. No phones at all. They were pointing out that cell phones and the social media apps they support have become the prime delivery device for bullying, and they are almost always involved when fights break out during lunch and in the hallways now. During the school hours. Plus, kids break out their phones during the fights. They record the fights. They share those videos on social media or elsewhere. And that just prompts more bullying and more fights. So, have to see, I would imagine the legislature is going to just kind of start soft there and say ban it from the classrooms. But there are schools in Iowa that have done all-out bans in the school during the entire day, and they've seen really good results from that. The Des Moines International Airport has officially recorded back-to-back record years. Nearly 3.2 million passengers traveled through the airport's terminals last year. That was an announcement made on Monday. That's up from 3.1 million last year, or 2023, the last year recorded. But Before that, the record had been 2.9 million in 2019 before, of course, the COVID pandemic pushed down the travel numbers in 2020 and 2020, or from 2020 to 2022. The record-breaking 2024 traffic came, remember, despite the fact there's all that construction going on outside that's made getting to the airport, accessing the airport, getting through it more complicated. That $445 million terminal, which is now starting to come up out of the ground if you go down there. From the files of some headlines don't need stories, we bring you this. Man charged over alleged sexual contact with horse's nostril. This is a Florida man named Donald.
Oh, where is he from?
Not that Donald from Florida. Donald Calloway is this guy's name. A witness took video of the activity, and when police confronted Calloway, he called it a sexually frustrated moment. And police called it one count of sexual contact with animals. I mean,
yeah, no,
that's about your best offense right there. It's just.
I just watched the 2-part documentary on the Jerry Springer Show.
Yeah, I started that too.
It's surprisingly entertaining and a reminder of that. And like the biggest, oh my God, moment in the history of that show is when the guy comes on that's married to the horse.
Yes, right. Starts making out with the horse. The horse isn't making out with him. He is making out with the horse on the stage.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. And you just like listen to like the creator of that show just flat out admit that all he cared about was being as outrageous as possible.
And it worked.
And it did.
It passed Oprah.
That show started like 2 a.m. in the morning, right? It was like an overnight show because it was so stupid and there were so many talk shows. But then it became a primetime show basically right in the middle of the afternoon. Walmart, you'll like this, Murph. Walmart unveiled a comprehensive brand refresh this week that the company says reflects its evolution as a people-led, tech-powered, omnichannel retailer.
Really?
According to a news release, the updated branding will better represent who Walmart is today. Unquote. Okay. They spent $1.25 million to update the logo, and here's what they got. The before is on the left, and the new logo is on the right.
It's virtually the same, except with maybe a little bit brighter colors, maybe a little more yellow. Are those whatever those things are? Are they?
You think that's too similar there? It doesn't really stand out.
It looks the same.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hang on. They did more than just the logo. They also updated the lettering on the sign. They went for something fresh, something all new.
They hit bold.
Hit bold. That's what they did. It's the same font in the same color, in the same size.
Big Papa says it represents how Walmart people just got fatter. $1.25 million.
Jeez.
How hard is this graphic artist laughing right now on his way to the bank?
Yep, that's great. Good for him or her.
All right, now here's the great Eric Dickerson talking about the time during his rookie year when the Rams called a play against the Giants in which he had to block Lawrence Taylor.
The game is close. We're going down to score, and I call it the play. And so, sure enough, then Mike Barber slips past, LT rushes. I cut him, and y'all linebackers, y'all don't want to be cut.
You don't do that.
No, you don't want to be cut. I cut him good too. Yeah. So I cut him. He gets up. And I'm walking back. He grabbed me by my arm. Hey, you mother! Don't you cut me? You hear me? So I'm standing. I'm like, I thought you were gonna laugh. You hear me?
What'd you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I hear you.
Good answer. The right answer.
Finally, from the files of some headlines don't need stories, we bring you this. Bonus round. Experts warn that Bluetooth sex toys are a prime target for hackers. 4 years ago, hackers locked users into a chastity belt and demanded a ransom to unlock it. I'm not even sure what that means, but it's funny to me.
I'm mildly worried about this microphone.
Why do you need Bluetooth control on this kind of stuff? I mean,
don't know.
There's too much Bluetooth control on stuff these days. People have Bluetooth control on too many things now, and it can be dangerous. Murph, devices, these toys, they can overheat, cause to overheat if somebody jimmies into them via Bluetooth. That could hurt somebody. Sensitive data, too, could be stolen, like your name,
right,
and the name of the particular toy that you registered for Bluetooth control of. That's your more, everybody.
Grimaldi's fan photos can be sent in to Murph_Andy at IowaEverywhere.com. AD goes through the photos like the one you see here, picks out a winner for each Friday. Grimaldi's coal-fired brick oven pizza. Stop by West Des Moines or District at Prairie Trail in Ankeny locations, and $50 gift card given out each Friday. AD,
these are our winners from a few weeks ago. Tim Carver and his family. They sent the picture of them enjoying the gift card.
That's
the
nice.
West Des Moines Grimaldi's.
I know exactly where that little nook in the corner of the brick is. So thanks for sending that in, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for Mr. Movie.
It's time to go to the movies with Mr. Movie, Mike Woody, presented by P&P Small Engines.
Speaking of P&P Small Engines, Mike, do you think we're going to get snow this year? Is there a chance we just don't get snow?
I talked to the weatherman out at P&P the other day, and Jeff says, if you don't think we're going to get snow this winter, you're really not from Iowa. So
yeah,
he literally has 50 Toro snowblowers and 50 Cub Cadet snowblowers ready to go. So he knows it's coming. You can wait or you can get it early. It's your call.
Your call. You make the call. Out of the box with Mr. Movie Mike Woody this week is the movie or series that we're most looking forward to watching in 2025. And the movie I picked, I believe, goes nationwide this weekend. So
yes.
I hope to see it this weekend. It's called September 5. It is about the Munich Olympics in 1972. And, of course, the hostage situation and the terrible tragedy that ends up happening. But this is all from the television production standpoint, where ABC News kept trying to take this from Roone Arledge and the sports team in the control room. And Roone Arledge refused to do it. I've read the book on this. I can't wait to see it. It has good buzz, or at least I think it does. And Roone Arledge kept saying, we're better. We're here. We're better equipped to tell this story. And he was right, of course. And they won many Emmys. And Jim McKay was fantastic as the center anchor for all of this terrible tragedy that happened. And then the decisions whether to continue the games, which they ultimately did. These are the Day and Gable Olympics. These are the pre-Fontaine.
Yeah, they never stopped, right? They just kept going.
They kept going. And one of the things, Mike, that they wrestled with is at one point they noticed the hostages, I recall from the book, they noticed that the hostages are watching ABC's worldwide coverage, and then they have this difficult discussion. Are we aiding, or not the hostages, I'm sorry, the terrorists. And are we aiding the terrorists at this point? Do we need to cut the feed? Do we need to cut away? So it becomes all of these huge decisions that have to be made in split second in something that you thought you're going to be covering sports. So what are you hearing on September 5?
The buzz, you're right, is very strong on this. They anticipate possible Oscar nominations. It was on many of the top 10 lists. It wasn't on mine because we haven't seen it yet. But it's there. I don't understand the slow rollout of this film. When it had that kind of buzz, you'd have thought by now we'd have seen it. But
It makes me wonder if they're concerned there's just not an audience for something this long ago. I mean, this is 1972.
It's a story that's been told a number of times. There's a really, really good documentary voiced by Michael Douglas it's a fantastic documentary. It was told, I mean, not this story wasn't told, but the aftermath story was told in the movie Munich.
That's true. Yep, I mean, that was a good movie.
But it is, I think this is one of the most fascinating stories in modern history, really. I can't believe, you cannot believe this happened. It is so outrageous and horribly just heartbreaking. But at the same time, I mean, the news access, right? I mean, you're talking about that, Murph. I mean, the cameras that are on these terrorists that are doing this, and the coverage of their press conferences afterwards, and even the coverage there at the airport as it's all going to a giant fiery shit show. I mean, you have so much footage of this, and this again, it was over 50 years ago. So I don't think that this story runs out of interest because it's too long ago.
And it was kind of, and we learned this through to Mike, you'll remember well the San Francisco earthquake when the Giants and A's played, and it started to help the credibility of sportscasting too, because we were reminded that, the reporters and anchors in this profession are ad-libbing all the time. They don't know what's going to happen next. So they're surprisingly well equipped to handle this. And Jim McKay was terrific. I just remember, his famous sad line of, "They're all gone." It's just, it really resonates. So I'm looking forward to this. And I'll see it this weekend if it's out. Andy, what are you looking forward to this year?
Well, I'm going to zag away from the big screen here because there's just no question that this is the thing I'm looking forward to most. Next month, we will get season 2 of 1923 on Paramount Plus. I've seen all of the Yellowstone stuff, all of it, every episode. Yellowstone, what was the other one? 1893, or what was it?
The Tim McGraw
1880.
Yeah.
1883, I think. Okay. Yeah, 1883, and then 1923. This is the best of them. 1923 with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. The cast is loaded, but it's so well done. Fantastic villains. It gets a little, as it's anything Taylor Sheridan, it packs an awful lot into the space that he's given. I mean, it's loaded, but it's fascinating. And there were just some major cliffhangers after the first season. I can't wait. I was so excited. There was actually the best thing I saw in this final season of Yellowstone was the trailer for season 2 of 1923. So,
well, says something.
It really does. No, seriously, guys. I mean, if you haven't seen this yet, you need to take time and watch 1923 because it's really, really, really good. And the next season starts February 23rd.
Mike, what musical are you looking forward to most?
Les Mis 2, and I've already got pre-ordered tickets for you and the boys. Well, Jenny can come too.
Okay.
But, I know you were such a fan of the first one. No, Keith. This one, you guys might appreciate a remake of The Running Man.
Schwarzenegger's Running Man.
That's
Glenn Powell.
Yeah, Glenn Powell's coming into this role. And Edgar Wright, who has made some really good movies, including Baby Driver, which is a horrible title for that movie, but it was still a great movie. I think this has got a lot going, and Josh Brolin plays the bad guy.
Brolin's good in a role like that.
Yeah, he is very good in a role like that. So, I don't see anything here I don't like.
I'm trying to remember The Running Man. Is that real early in Arnold's film career.
Yeah, kinda.
It was good. It was entertaining. Wasn't Richard Dawson the host?
Richard Dawson was the guy running the game.
Running Man. Okay, AD, what do you have that you're looking forward to?
So director Ryan Coogler and actor Michael B. Jordan have teamed up 3 times on Fruitvale Station, on Creed, and on Black Panther. And I've loved all 3 of those movies. Their 4th movie comes out this spring. It's called Sinners. I don't know a ton about it. I've seen the trailer. It's like, I think, horror genre, but probably not like hardcore horror. But regardless, when those 2 team up, I'm gonna watch that movie. I'm excited about it. And yeah, Sinners this spring.
Yeah, that can happen when you have a director and an actor that seem to have something together. Like
that's
Scorsese
a good topic.
and
Let's
DiCaprio
do
or
that.
De Niro.
Let's do that next week. Like director and leading man combos, our favorite.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. All right, let's get to the reviews here with Mike Woody, Mr. Movie. And I have seen the first movie here. It's The Fire Inside, which is also a Bob Seger song. It's the true story of Olympic boxer who won 2 gold medals, the only one to do so from the United States, Clarissa Shields, who now, I think even now, is maybe 29 years old. So this is a recent story, and she is from the mean streets of Flint, Michigan. And I mean, she is from absolute poverty as the movie starts out, in a really tough home situation. And Mike, I won't steal your thunder here. I'll tell you what I think, but what did you think of The Fire Inside?
You know, I had no idea about this story. I had no idea who this woman was. I'd never heard her name. I don't know how this completely slipped past me, but I sat there and I just like, I should have brought Sue. She would have loved this story. I mean, it's a really, really good movie. And the fact that this woman has won 2 gold medals and 90% of the country has no idea who she is says a lot about our society. Because
it's women's boxing, though. I mean, women's boxing doesn't get much coverage, although, I mean, that is changing. Problem is, this happened at a time where we weren't paying any attention to it.
And there are some people, my wife is one that just does not want to watch women punch each other. Like, she understands that.
Unless it's on the Springer show.
Even then, I'm not sure. Yeah, it just doesn't like, I mean, that kind of fighting makes her more uncomfortable when it's women fighing. And she's not alone in that.
I was a bouncer at the field house in Iowa City for 3 years. Women love to punch each other.
Oh, I know.
Hey, that was the only good part, worthwhile part of watching that whole damn fight between Tyson and Jake Paul.
The women's fight.
It was by far the best fight of the whole night. It was the only thing that was worth watching.
This movie surprised me, and I don't even know if it's still in theaters or how long it'll stay there, because I don't think it's doing a lot of business, but it's really good.
It really is.
It is, and it's much more nuanced than I was expecting it to be. Like I worried that it was going to be like, all men are bad, all poor people are great and rich people are awful, and all black people are wonderful and all white people are mean. The trailer made me think like, oh, is this going to just lack nuance? And it doesn't. It's really well done. It represents real society. There are good and bad people all along this woman's life. As she starts out as a girl, and it leaves her at the time she's a woman. And it's really well done. It's at least, to me, on the level of the Creed movies.
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
it's good.
It's the trailers for it, or not just the trailers, but like, the little headlines that they splash across the trailers. They have not been light-handed. I mean, I saw a number of them saying this is the best boxing movie since Rocky. This is the greatest sports story that you've never heard of. I mean, just the superlatives
that's too
are being
much
thrown around with this.
Yeah, I think that
which does put it at risk, right? I mean, because people go in on that kind of.
Yeah, you go in with those expectations, you're probably not going to be happy.
But I thought it was like an A-, B+.
I've got it at a B+. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Last Showgirl, Pamela Anderson, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Dave Bautista in the story of a Vegas nightclub and showgirl's career.
Okay, I've been dragging my feet to go see this because
Is that Pamela Anderson we're seeing on our screen
That is
right now?
Pamela Anderson right there. And it didn't sound good. I just like, it's going to be a horrible movie. And I went the other day, I had like an afternoon open. So I went and saw it. It was really good. I think, there's big talk that Pamela Anderson should get an Oscar nomination. And you know what? I think she should. It's really, really well done. It's this group of people working at this club in Vegas. And, most of them have worked there a long time. These are not, really good people, but then they decide, or the club decides it's going to close, and all of these people are just let go, or going to be let go. And so you kind of see the end of it, and they come to their last show and the finale, and it was very, very well done.
This is not Pamela Anderson. This is not her most watched movie.
No, it is not.
Well, all right, fine. I'll ask. Does anybody get naked?
If there is, I don't remember a lot of nudity, but I think there was some. I think it was Dave Bautista, though.
Oh boy, what's the grade for The Last Showgirl? He does have the biggest boobs.
No, he doesn't. It's a B. It's
a B.
It's worth seeing. Yeah.
It goes to expectations, though. If you had gone in there just thinking this is great, you might have been disappointed, but it exceeded your expectations.
If you went into a Pamela Lee Anderson movie and you thought it was going to be great,
I think she dropped that Lee a while ago.
I think she dropped the Lee.
Yeah. Well, her kids, she did have kids with him.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But I enjoyed it. She was really good.
Better Man is this bizarre idea of Robbie Williams playing himself in monkey makeup.
Full monkey makeup.
That's more than makeup.
Yeah, it's a musical from the people who brought us the Greatest Show.
Yeah.
Greatest Showman.
I'm totally out.
I'm out on this.
You know what? I had no desire to see this. And I went to it last night, and I walked out and I thought, first off, I had no idea who this guy is. He's in some
British pop star.
Yeah. It was really well done. It's very emotional in parts. And I got
emotional with the man dressed as a monkey.
Well, he's got some self-destructive issues.
Well,
and
is he fling poop?
Yeah.
His dad referred to him as a little monkey when he was a kid. And so why they decided to take that through the whole movie, I'm not really sure, but it is a little distracting, but the story is good. The music is good. And I mean, if you've seen the Greatest Showman, I mean, that's a really well-made movie. And so is this. I walked out thinking, it's a good B+. It's really well done.
Okay, maybe you convinced AD to see that.
Nope.
Oh, really? I was going to say that's the only chance you got here, Mike.
Next week, Wolfman.
I'm thinking Caden Collin.
Oh, I don't know. No.
I'll tell you what. The Fales family will probably see that. Of course, I'm talking about the Fales family, sans Andy. I mean, if it's the guy that did The Greatest Showman, I mean, my wife and kids loved that.
Your kids are a little young to see it. This guy
it's rated R.
It's rated R.
Okay.
And it's
good reason not to see it.
Lots of drugs, lots of sex, lots of
Can you imagine
drugs, sex, and monkey outfit?
Can you imagine how much trouble you'd be in if you said, "Hey, Kahala, take the kids to"?
This would be a great song and dance.
And next thing you know, there's profanity and nudity and drug use and oh man! All right, Wolfman.
So next week we get Wolfman. But one last comment. I went the other day to see A Complete Unknown the second time. That is just a great movie.
Yeah, Cade went back to see it again too.
Yeah, well, Cade should have called me, man. He could have gone in with my pass.
The Dylan movie you're talking about, yeah, right.
It's so well done, and Timothy Chalamet
he's so talented.
Yeah, he's really good in it.
Yeah.
Wolfman.
Tell
me about
we get
this.
Wolfman on September 5th.
Okay, September 5th. Wolfman, I want to dismiss that, but then I always remember when I was in high school how much I enjoyed An American Werewolf in London. So there's the possibility.
They need to remake that movie with some better special effects. They
have
horrible.
remade it. They've
already
have they?
Okay,
yeah.
Good. All right. Well, then maybe I need to see that movie. Was it good? Was it well done?
Not as good.
Yeah,
no.
no.
The first one was a pretty good movie, though.
It was.
The special effects lacked a little bit, although ahead of its time. All right, enjoy the movies, Mr. Movie.
All right, guys. See you next week.
All right, thank you, Mike Woody, presented by P&P Small Engines. It is time for Throwdowns.
Throwdowns. It's Throwdowns. Backed by Heartland Tire and Auto.
Heartland Tire and Auto treating you like family in Ankeny, Waukee, Knoxville, Boone, and Creston. Andy, when J.J. McCarthy went down in the preseason, the Vikings weren't expected to do much, but a 14-3 regular season followed. Then the last 2 weeks, blowout losses, season over. Was this a successful season for the Vikings?
Sentimentally, no, because we know what the fans care about most. On paper, yes. That was a really tough division. At least it looked like it.
Yeah.
Two of the teams are out in the playoffs right away. But, the problem is that they want more than that. There was more expected of that team. Leading into that fight, they lost a couple of games that really came back to bite them and cost them that home field. Maybe that would have been the difference, and everything would be different now. But that's the NFL, man. One game can make all the difference in the world.
I'm going to go to the expectations we just talked about for movies. I do think this was a successful season because the expectations were so low that most Vikings fans just thought that this was like a year of nothing significant happening. And then your expectations do raise as the team continues to win. But you still had all those Sundays and other days when the Vikings played, when the Vikings won, and it was better than you thought as a Vikings fan. So once the hurt subsides, it was a better than expected season.
Problem is, if you don't sign Darnold, you're back to square one and kind of nothing to build on for next year. Murph, the Cowboys are in search of a new coach. On one hand, the expectations are as high as they could come. On the other hand, a Super Bowl win would make you immortal. If you were an in-demand head coach, would you take the Cowboys' job?
If I'm an in-demand head coach, absolutely not. I mean, Jimmy Johnson lost his job there because of Jerry Jones's meddling. So no, if I have options, I would never take the Cowboys' job. Not with Jerry Jones there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the expectations from that fan base. It's just it's the expectations are never less than Super Bowl championship.
All right, Andy, the Tooth Fairy's probably done visiting your houses, but my daughter lost her first tooth over the weekend. Andy, what did the Tooth Fairy bring to your house?
One of those special coins, like the Sacagawea dollars, or if you had a Susan B. Anthony dollar, or a 50-cent piece. I don't think the kids ever did anything with those. They just kind of like getting that, and they put it in their bank, and it's probably still there. But one of the special, or like a $2 bill, something cool.
I got a hole in my smile.
That's it?
No, we used to get a quarter. A long time ago.
Oh, you were asking what we got as kids, or what we gave?
What did your kids get? Yeah.
A dollar. A silver dollar.
Yeah.
A dollar.
Same. We get a dollar coin.
Silver dollar. Usually, some change left over from Coonies.
Yeah, the 50-cent pieces.
There you go.
Yeah, a couple of 50-cent pieces, whatever I had.
Hey, let's throw downs.
Time for the Andrew Downs audio drop of the day. It's an all Andrew Downs finish here. We call this the AD squared.
Yeah, powered by Game Day Men's Health. I go to the Ankeny location up in Prairie Trail. You can find them in West Des Moines on University, also in North Liberty on the eastern side of the state. Got my labs done last week. Excited to go in tomorrow and kind of see how things are going for me. Love how kind of professional and official it all is when you go in there and get help. We mentioned it earlier. Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings, he's probably a good play-by-play guy. I don't really know because I only pay attention when he goes viral.
Yeah.
I do love how he wears his heart on his sleeve, and especially when things aren't going well for the Vikings, as they weren't on Monday.
Two receivers left, Rams blitz. Darnold gets away from it, steps up in the pocket. He's holding it too long. Just run. Throw it, man! run. Just run, Paul. At the 25-yard line, he's sacked for a 5th time.
He's exactly right,
Throw
too.
it, man.
Remember that guy with the Orioles, though? Like that play-by-play guy with the Orioles who got in trouble? Like the management suspended him for saying something obvious about the
It was
game of
benign,
Tampa.
too. It wasn't even
nothing.
controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Good
you
for the
got to
Vikings.
build up a rapport like that Paul Allen has got. But once they've got it, that's your guy.
Vikings radio network with that audio. Thank you. Oh, no, quickie poll results. Let's get to those first. Presented by WCI Pools and Spas. It's ripped from today's headlines.
Yeah, which is the bigger worry when camping in Hilton Coliseum in below freezing temperatures, a tent fire or hypothermia? Hypothermia leading this 76% of the vote. Yeah, because you know those kids, they're drunk. They can't feel it.
College students.
Yep,
yeah,
that's what's up.
not a fully formed brain yet. Well, thank you for being part of Murph and Andy here on Iowa Everywhere. Please, if you would, go down and like and subscribe. That helps all the shows here on Iowa Everywhere, including us. We appreciate it. We're back Friday. We hope you are too.